Now, last week, both the Reserve Bank of Australia and the Reserve Bank of New Zealand met, but their policy responses were quite different, and a divergence has opened up between them. Now, the Reserve Bank of Australia hiked by 25 basis points, but there had been, prior to last week's meeting, a expectation that the RBA might hike by 50 basis points. And you can just see here that after the interest rate hike meeting, the implied basis points for upcoming meetings rapidly dropped off. And so markets started to pricing a less aggressive Reserve Bank of Australia. By contrast, when the RBNZ met, they hiked by 50 basis points, and the board had also been discussing a potential 75 basis point hike, so much more aggressive. And you can see that the terminal rate expectations have now increased up to nearly 5% for May next year. And you can just see after the meeting, that the implied basis points for upcoming meetings started to rise. So now markets are expecting a more aggressive RBNZ. So the RBNZ has reiterated that hawkish outlook when Governor Orr stated in the annual report on October the 11th that there's more work to do, and increasing the official cash rates the most effective way we can reduce inflation and support maximum sustainable employment. This hawkish comment was reflected in that terminal rate, and the divergence that we see now between the RBA and the RBNZ should favour Aussie New Zealand dollar sellers. If you look at the bond yield spread, a good indicator of future currency price direction, you can see that the bond yield spread between Australian 10-year bonds and New Zealand 10-year bonds is pulling lower. So therefore, now divergence between the two central banks should favour more Aussie New Zealand dollar downside in the near term. Now the major risk here is if the RBA or the RBNZ make any significant announcements which change this outlook. And as this trade is based on monetary policy outlook, we have to be aware that the change in monetary policy would change the outlook. And traders must also be aware that the New Zealand dollar over the last couple of years, even when it's had hawkish monetary policy, hasn't always responded in the way that it ought. So make